So thank you for joining us today and learning about the PairSoft solution called PaperSave. On the line with me, I do have Valerie Albertson. Say hello, Valerie.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Valerie is actually going to help with today's session as well. And we'll kind of get into how we're going to communicate with you. But first, just a little bit about myself. I started my career back in the 90s. Back when PaperSave was Blackbaud was less than 100 people in the financial edge support team, or back then it was accounting for nonprofits. Since then, I've actually done several things. I've managed professional services firms with one of the top 15 CPA firms. And then I've been with PaperSave for the past 15 plus years. So I've really helped countless organizations over the years with their digital transformation and helping get rid of that paper environment. Valerie, who's on the line, is really experienced in that higher education area. So she has a lot of great experience dealing with higher ed organizations. So as we go through today's presentation, just a couple notes. There is a Zoom toolbar that comes down off the top of your screen. There is a Q&A section in there. So if you have a question, definitely encourage you to put those questions in there, and Valerie's going to be responding to them as I go through the presentation. So speaking of the presentation, we have an agenda. It's a pretty quick agenda. This is really to kind of give you a feel of what does it look like to automate your paper-based gift process and what obstacles you may be experiencing today that can be addressed. As you may remember from the webinar invitation, we were offering pinatagrams to those who joined. So at the end of today's session, I'm going to put an email address up for Josh Campanero. I think and if you don't get that email address, you can also email me, but Josh is going to get your address and you are going to get this cute little pinatagram in the mail here in the next week or so, however long it takes for fulfillment and shipping to get to you. And you can have those delivered to your work address or your home address, whatever works best for you. But it's our way of saying thank you for your time today. So let's take a look at who PairSoft is today, because some of y'all may know us as PaperSave. So about 12 months ago, PaperSave and Workplace joined together to create PairSoft. Today, we are a team of over 100 professionals, and most of which are in Miami, but we actually have worldwide presence. So for example, our SVP of products, Sami Peltonen, is based in Helsinki. So it's amazing what technology can do, as an example, to bring us all together to operate cohesively. Our firm is based on streamlining business processes, whether they're things like gift process, gift agreements, major gift processes, or also financial-based processes like AP automation, procurement, and so forth. We have been a strategic partner of Blackbaud's, their very first one, I may add, since 2000. And that is when we came out with our first integration with Razor's Edge. And I want to say back then it may have even been Razor's Edge 5. So this was before 6 and version 7 were even released. And we have been honored by Blackbaud, and we're actually their very first technology ISV, or Independent Software Vendor Partner of the Year. So lots of experience in working with Blackbaud, and you're going to see that experience when we start getting into that integration. So what exactly is PaperSave? So PaperSave is much more than just a document attach feature, because of course you already have that within Razor's Edge and NXT, and also some of you all use Blackbaud CRM. And that is because when you think of document management, we think of multiple ways of getting documents into the system, streamlining processes. We also think of multiple ways of searching and retrieving documents. And that's really what that integrated document management does for you. We think of process automation, right? So how can we securely capture documents into a process and allow people, no matter where they're working today, to participate in that process. And that's what we're going to focus on today. But these are key things that really enable that digital transformation. And organizations today are really needing that, especially as some of them have chosen not to return to their traditional brick and mortar environment and have more of a hybrid workforce. So there are lots of inherent issues, as some of which you may be experiencing with your paper-based process. So for example, back when COVID started, right, we all basically grabbed what we could off of our desk and we started working from home. Well, that's great. Of course, it was wonderful that Razor's Edge was already in the cloud. However, those filing cabinets were not. And so you basically were locked out of a lot of key information that you needed access to. So the first thing is really accessibility to that information. So PaperSave is tightly integrated across Razor's Edge. So that means whether you're storing gift agreements, MOUs, plan giving documents, supporting gift documentation that you might need, not just for the process, but also for audits and things like that, right? All of that information is securely stored inside the PaperSave cloud. Because it's securely stored, that addresses the collaboration. Because now, no matter where I am, I have access to the information that I've been given rights to, so that whether on my mobile device, a tablet, or my computer, working from wherever, I can have access to that same information, just like I was when I was in the office. The other important thing when we think about the inherent issues with paper-based processes is managing processes across locations securely. Now that's the key word, is securely. And so what the system really allows you to do is capture documents securely into the process. And no matter where I'm working or what time zone I'm working in, I have access to do my day-to-day functions, just like if I was sitting in the office looking at maybe some photocopies. Documents are no longer lost because it becomes that sole source of truth. We hear from organizations all the time about, okay, did I put it here? Do I put it there? I don't know really where to look for it, because I might look for it in SharePoint. I may look for it shared network folders. Maybe it's been attached as a document attachment inside of Razor's Edge. Well, we can eliminate that because now everything is stored securely and in the same format, right? So that you know exactly, because there's only one place for you to go look for that information. And then last but not least is those data entry issues, right? Because when you think about the amount of time it takes to create a gift, right? We're doing a lot of this, trying to create the gift. And what you'll see is how we can optically read documentation that comes in to extract data and use that data to actually create those gift records. Okay, so today's focus is only going to be on that gift automation. I'll touch a little bit on that document management, but we can always do follow-up sessions as needed and interested. Okay, so again, right, lots of business issues with those manual processes that I touched on just a few minutes ago. So let's take a look then at that automation, right? Because you can't automate paper because it's paper. It's flat, it's only accessible to one person, but we can do that with PaperSave. So I'm going to dive into the application because I think a lot of organizations always like to see, what does it look like? So here I am inside of PaperSave, right? I've got Razor's Edge here in one tab and PaperSave here in another tab. PaperSave is a full cloud-based solution, right? So again, no matter where you are, you have access to it, of course, with the proper credentials to the application. In PaperSave, we have central navigation, and in the central navigation, you'll notice workflows. So workflows, you can have multiple workflows. Today, we'll focus on that gift. And here in the workflow, right, we can see I've got a sum. So it's going to sum all these gifts sitting out there for me. It's going to show me what my largest gift. We have the ability to put other types of metrics on this bar for you so that you can kind of take a quick glance as what's in process. Okay. Now, because I am here in the workflow, if I want to add documents, we can add documents into the system. Now, you'll notice that there are 3 different scanner options. So if I've opened up today's mail and I have a stack of gifts, okay, I can just drop them in the scanner and scan them to PaperSave. Now, we do highly recommend specific types of scanning hardware because unlike a multifunctional device where you might have to open up the door to put the gift document down, to shut that, to hit copy, and then open it up, remove that, go to the next one. There's a lot of time that is spent just getting the gifts into the process. So with these dedicated scanners, these are desktop scanners, they can handle documents of different sizes and different thicknesses very efficiently. Okay, so PaperSave is going to separate the documents for you. So unlike if you're doing attachments, you don't have to scan and name and save each one individually. That's a lot of time. With PaperSave, just scan the stack and it's going to separate them for you. Now I'm bringing this one up because we actually have a couple people that made a comment that they're using a lockbox. So let's say, for example, I downloaded some documents from the lockbox, and it could be one big file or they may send you individual files. You can actually bring documents in electronically. You can drag and drop, or you can do what I did and browse out and grab those documents. Now, no matter if you're bringing in and calling up a scanner or you're bringing in the documents electronically, you have the ability to batch them. So let's say the batch I want to say is pinata, right? Party. So I can say, give it the batch name, and I can also set defaults. So just as an example, maybe we want all the gifts to be for a specific date, or all the gifts that we've added into the system, I want to have a specific post status or post date, right? These are fields that we can put in as defaults at this point of capturing, or we also can do that before we send these gifts into Razor's Edge, okay? Because sometimes, you know, the person who's capturing them may not know that information. Now, when we look at these gifts, you'll notice some say OCR completed and some say OCR in progress. So let's go to one of the ones that say completed. And here you'll notice that if there is documentation, or I should say data that was extracted off the documentation, there is a % accuracy over here. Okay, now that % accuracy is that technology called OCR, or optical character recognition, that is reading the document and placing specific data values in specific points over here on the profile. Okay, so you'll notice in this case, it's actually a really good example. It's just a check, right? Because I'm sure you all get checks in and, you know, you've got to figure out, okay, well, what do we do with it? Well, there's nowhere on this check that says a constituent ID. So what PaperSave will do is it will read this check block, right, for the address, and it's going to look inside of Razor's Edge and has an algorithm that says, hey, this is your constituent ID, right? This is the best match we found. So it's already lined up that constituent for you. Now, because there is some information here under the memo, it doesn't know that that is for a fund. So I could come here and I could just start typing. Now, as I type, it will execute a search against Razor's Edge. And it says, hey, okay, this is for the building fund. And then I can save. So anywhere you have these magnifying glasses, those constitute lookups. So even here, you'll notice I could look up on Razor's Edge and on my constituent list. Now, if this looks good, I can go ahead and submit that into the workflow, and it's going to bring up that next document in that electronic stack. So if I want to go maybe to the next gift or the next gift or the next gift, I have that capability to do so. So let's go to this one, because this one is for, you can see a coupon. So PaperSave does have the ability of reading coupons. Now, it can be a coupon like this one. Maybe yours has a barcode, maybe it has a scan line, but it will actually read that information off that coupon and extract it and put it in very specific placements. So just as an example, how does that work? There is a way that we can configure PaperSave to look for identifiers. So in this example, that identifier is FID. Anytime PaperSave sees FID colon, it knows where to extract that information. So it will take it from here and it will place that over here for you. Okay, so that way, when you design your next appeal and that information, no matter where FID is and the designer's placed it, right, it's still going to look for that trigger and it's going to extract that information. So that way, right, we can have updated appeals. It does not a fixed format, and you can make sure you're capturing as much information as possible. Okay, so that's a little bit about that review, that batching, like how can we create that collective group of batches? Here you'll notice we're to our piñata party, and I see that the documents extracted that data, and again, I can submit it. Okay, so let's flip forward and let's take a look at now this list. So these are the gifts that have come in. Data has been extracted, and then it's sitting out here in this workflow. If I want to filter based on a batch, right, I can actually come and say, hey, I want to work with a specific batch. So if I came and said batch and I want to filter based on that value there, let me go ahead and delete that. I can apply the filters, right? So now you can see, again, it's only showing me that batch, or think of it almost like a deposit, and it's going to sum it for me, and it's going to show me the largest gift or whatever metrics I have set up there on the toolbar. Now, let's say I want to update this batch, and I want to say, hey, you know what? I want all of these to have a different gift date. So I could come here and I can mass update fields. So when I mass update fields, maybe I said, hey, you know what? I want this to be the piñata party, or whatever the batch is. And I want all of these to have today's date. Okay. Or any of those other profile fields, right? So now it's going to put those values on those gifts, right? So now when I come here, see all those say piñata party. Okay, so from here I could take a look and I can open up one of these gifts. Maybe I want to add to it. Maybe there's a solicitor. Maybe I want to populate a soft credit, right? Any of that information I can actually populate, because you'll notice as I scroll down, there really is a lot of additional information. Okay, now from here, I can submit. Now that submit is going to create the record in Razor's Edge, and it's going to file that document. Now this can also be used to build that web batch for you. And it's going to bring up that next document. Now, let's say I want to take a look at this one and this one, and maybe even the next one. Okay. And I want it to send them all in at the same time. I have that capability too, because from here, I could select those and submit those all at the same time. Okay. So now those all go into the system. The gift is created, and that record, that document is associated with that gift record. So let's pop over here and pull up, let's say Next Gen Systems. So here I am in Razor's Edge, and you'll notice I'm on a constituent record. Well, you have a PaperSave tile. So it looks just like a Razor's Edge tile, right? It looks like it's native. And that is because of that strategic partnership, right? That tight integration that we have. You don't even know you are looking at information that is coming from PaperSave Cloud here, right? Because it has that very simple look and feel to the system. Now, if I scroll down and let's say I go to gifts, here's where I can see those gifts. So if I open up a gift record, this is where I can see the next gen data systems. I can see my PaperSave tile on the gift record, right? And here's where I can see that supporting gift document. So this is where we can get back to the supporting documents very easily. Okay. Now, if I want to take a look at the workflow, oops, let's go back in there. I can take a look at that workflow too. So I can see who submitted it, right? And the date and time. And then that association, which is an automated event that aligns the document with that newly created record, right? So that way, right, you don't have to worry about filing. So let's think about that process, right? We started with capture. We've eliminated the need to scan and save each document individually. We're just going to scan them or upload them all into the system at the same time. PaperSave separates them. The OCR kicks off and reads the document. You get to review it. The gift gets created, and you don't have to worry about filing it. So what that essentially does is saves you a lot of time. Now, there are ways that you can pull these documents together based on, let's say, a batch. Because what we find today, a lot of times organizations have their gift documents all saved as a batch. Now, some of those may be PDFs, some of them may be paper. If you needed to just get to next gen data systems gift for today, right, you have to go to that PDF that may be 40 pages to find these 2 pages to then kind of copy and paste those pages out to actually send to the donor, right? Well, if you think about that, we are storing the document on the lowest level, which is that gift level. Because now if this donor came and said, hey, I need a copy of that, well, from right here, we have the ability to email that information to them. We can also download it, so we can save it out of the system very easily. The other thing that I did not mention, so shame on me and I apologize, we also have a lot of annotations. Annotations, think of them as additional security on the document. So just here's an example. You have an example of a redaction or a rectangle. Now, the two really look the same, but if there is sensitive information on this document that I want to hide, it can be done automatically. So it can automatically redact the bottom of a check, or if there's information that you want to hide, you can also do that if you have the proper rights to add the annotations. So it's a really nice way of being able to secure the information. Now, also, you'll notice here under the I, this is a records management feature showing you an audit trail of any time this document is touched. So just as an example, if I came here to download this and I go back to this I, you can see that, oh, look, I saved it on this date and time. Okay, so it does track that information automatically. Okay, so that's a little bit about kind of that drill down and drill back to the document. Let's take just one other look when we think of it, the document management functionality, and that is search, right? So yes, attachments you can get to from a Razor's Edge record. You know, with PaperSave, we saw how we can automate the filing, automate the transaction entry, and then of course it lines that and files that document for me. But let's say, for example, you want to say, I want to look at all gifts for a batch. Well, right here, I can go in and create a query. So if I come here and say, okay, I'm looking for gift date, let's say gift date, and I want greater than or equal to today's date or Monday's date, whatever I'm looking for. And they also have to be contained within a certain batch. So I can keep adding these queries because with a document management system, we can segment documents much like the way that you segment Razor's Edge data. Now, if this is a query that I commonly create, but let's say it maybe this batch number today, another batch number tomorrow, don't worry, because you can also save those searches. So here inside of these saved searches, you can say query on batch number. So I'm going to go ahead, and pull that up. And here you can see that batch. Now, if I want to edit that batch from one batch name to another, right, we can just simply put in that other batch name, the other gift dates, whatever that query is, but you're starting kind of with a starting point. You're not having to kind of build it from scratch. Okay, so that is a little bit about this query tool. So again, you can use this. It's great for audit preparation. Because not only can you say, hey, I want all restricted gifts for these funds over these periods, and I want to bring them out together, right? And that's what you're seeing. It's building this list for you. Now, what are we going to do with these documents? This is where it really gets fun. So here, let's go ahead and say, well, you know what? I really don't need all of this information. So let's remove some of those values. So I can really see, oh, here's the donor name, the amount, the date, the gift type, all of that information, right? I can export it. So we can take it right out to Excel. You can see down here, it builds that Excel file for me. I'll open up that Excel. And not only will all that data be there, but when I click enable editing, you can also see hyperlinks back to those supporting documents. So when you think about the importance of those financial processes, whether it's, just getting supporting documentation to them so that they can align it with their journal entry if you're not posting to your financial system, or audit preparation, right? You're able to get to a group of documents very simply and very quickly. We have a client in Lexington, Virginia. It happens to be a university foundation. They actually, when they started on their journey with Razor's Edge years ago, they had to make a decision. Do they stay with the current document imaging system that the university happened to use, or do they go with a solution like PaperSave? Well, they went with a solution like PaperSave because of this tight integration. And when we visited with them after, I think they may have been using the system for about a year, and they underwent their first audit. What used to take 4 business days pulling supporting documentation, they were able to get to that information in less than 30 minutes. I mean, I know it's once a year, but that's just an example of that time savings that the system delivers. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and let's pull up this slide deck. And I just want to go through a couple other slides. Okay, so I mentioned the attachments. I know a lot of organizations tend to use those, whether it's media or attachments. We like to say, pitch the attachments because of all of the functionality that PaperSave delivers. Now, there really are a couple other very important pieces of functionality that I don't mention in this list. One is your documents in PaperSave Cloud are backed up every single night, and snapshots are taken every 15 minutes. Furthermore, your documents are also stored encrypted, right? So that means they're encrypted. If somebody did penetrate our cloud and somebody did get access to your database, they need some like 512 encryption key to actually even see anything in your database. So we really focus on security, right? And we saw several different levels of security. Security into the system, who has rights into the process. You saw security around protecting information with the annotations, the redactions, and this also goes down to the platform level. We have a lot of great clients that have done some neat things with the system, including the ability to create their own dashboards, their own reports, and have hyperlinks to supporting documentation right from within inside of PaperSave. So imagine, running a report and not only being able to deliver that report to somebody, but if they had a question, they wanted to look at the opportunity or the proposal that was sent, they could drill down into it right from that report. Now, it will prompt them to log into PaperSave, but it is single sign-on, and they can have access. They don't have to leave the report to go over, to then search, to then drill down, right? We can eliminate all that middle noise and give them the information in a nice, tightly wrapped package. Okay, so I went through this and Valerie helped me with this. And so we said, okay, well, how many steps does it take to actually upload an attachment, right? Because if you think about it, gifts, a lot of it starts with paper. And so this is where we kind of document and chart it out. And that's for every single gift. So if you process 10 gifts a day, that's 19 steps. And that doesn't even include creating the gift record. We can reduce that now to a matter of a few clicks, right? So we can really help remove a lot of that redundancy that you go through day to day. The other thing I didn't mention, so that's why I have a slide deck to keep me on message, and that is the gift deposit. So PaperSave does have the ability to not just create the gift, but it can create that deposit with your financial institution as well. So if you processed 10 gifts today, that total $10,000, tonight you would see an ACH transaction in your bank account for $10,000. Okay, so when we think about these 19 steps, again, that doesn't include creating the gift transaction or the deposit. So there's a lot of ways that we create that efficiency and that streamlined process for you. Okay, so I know we had a lot of questions, and Valerie, thank you so much for answering them. Really appreciate it. Now, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the session, Josh is going to be reaching out to you to get a mailing address so that you can get that cute little party piñata. I didn't get mine yet, but that's okay because it's on its way. So as soon as you get him your email, or not your email, can't send it virtually through email, but as soon as you get him your address, he will get that fulfilled and you should see it within the next week or so. So let's keep the party going, right? If you have questions or you'd like to talk to us a little bit further about how PaperSave works in your operations, what if this, what if that, how does this work, right? We'd be happy to have those conversations with you. Josh can reach out to Josh and he can set up a meeting with the appropriate person on my sales team, whether it's Valerie or somebody else. But we really appreciate your time today. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.